how breast cancer changed my business. And it absolutely did change my business. There's a few things I want to share with you before I get into the nitty gritty and the business stuff. And I want to just let you know that I am cancer free. And I wanted to put that out first because I think it's really, really important that you know that. So I am very fortunate that I am cancer free. And I'm also very grateful to the NHS, who in 2020 enabled me to have the treatment that I needed. And I think it's really important to say that because there are so many people out there who have not been able to get the diagnosis that they need or the treatment that they need. And I was extremely fortunate that I was able to get all of the treatment that I needed, and I am now cancer free. And I wanted to put that out there first because I think that's really important for you to know. So before I go on to the business stuff, I felt like I needed to give you a little insight into my breast cancer journey. And don't worry, I won't go into too much detail, and I won't bore you with it because I'm sure lots of people have heard me talk about it before. But I think it's really important to say that although I found a lump in my left breast back in 2019, I didn't do anything about it. And I didn't do anything about it because I was busy. Because I probably found it around, I don't know, September, October time in 2019. I didn't do anything about it because one of my children has a birthday in October, one in November, and, you know, Christmas is coming. And, you know, I wasn't that concerned because I had previously found a lump and it had been nothing. So I didn't have any, you know, I wasn't scared, wasn't particularly worried, but I was being busy. And I wasn't putting myself first. And I'll probably come to that again later on while I'm talking. Now, I was really fortunate that in December, I received a letter because of my age. I was being called to a routine mammogram, and that was booked for January. So it kind of let me off the hook, and it enabled me and allowed me to put it to one side. But please, please, if you are concerned about anything or you have a lump or any symptoms, signs, or you're concerned about anything, please, please, please go to your GP. I was very, very lucky. And my story could have been very, very different if I hadn't received that letter and gone for a routine mammogram in January. A mammogram that actually resulted in them telling me that, yes, there was an issue with the lump. And it's what they call sort of, the cancer was encapsulated, if you like, in the lump, and it did need to be removed. So in the first week of lockdown, way back in March 2020, I went for my first operation. And already the hospitals had changed. I wasn't allowed to take anyone with me. I had to have my temperature taken. I got asked numerous times, did I have a persistent cough? Had I had a temperature? All of those kind of things. And although it was done in day surgery and I was back, I think one of the things I remember very clearly saying was, oh, I'll be back at my desk within 24 hours. And I had that mindset. And mindset is so important in business. And I absolutely proved to myself last year that my mindset is really, really strong, because I went in for my operation on the Wednesday, came out on the Thursday and was back at my desk on the Friday as I had planned. But unfortunately, I needed another operation. They found abnormal cells, if you like, still on the very edge of what they had taken away. So they had to go back in again, and that happened in the April. Now, unfortunately, they still found those abnormal cells, those precancerous cells, if you like. Those ones, you know, it's non-invasive, but we need to make sure that they don't change. And unfortunately, cancer cells have a mind of their own. So it was really important I had another operation. Now, I could have had another incision, wide incision, where they went in and took more tissue. But quite frankly, and I'll be honest with you, I'm very flat-chested. Another incision just felt like it was not a great decision for me, or not a great choice for me. So I decided to go for a mastectomy. Now, at that time, for me to have reconstruction at the same time, it wasn't possible. Reconstruction wasn't being done at that time due to COVID. So I had to wait, and I didn't have my next operation until August. So the reason for sort of explaining that and giving you sort of an idea of the length of my journey was because when I first went for that mammogram in January, I really didn't know what was going to happen. And I really wasn't worried or concerned or scared at all. I just thought I was going to get a letter that was saying, yeah, it's normal, it's fine, don't worry about it. And what was really interesting is in March, before that operation, I'd just reached out to a business coach, Lenka Latonska, and I was about to sign up to work with her. And I knew it was the right decision for my business. And I knew it's what my business needed, because I felt like I'd hit this plateau. In business, we get to these points, and perhaps it's because we want to, or you want to upgrade, you want to increase your income level, or you're feeling stuck, you know that you're working a lot of hours and not seeing the return. And I was at that point where I just felt like something wasn't clicking, something wasn't right, and I really needed help and support. So I reached out to Lenka and had a discovery call with her, and I was a bit like, okay, I'm going to sign up. It was the biggest investment I've ever made in coaching. And I was like, I'm going to sign up, but I've got to tell you, I'm about to have an operation and I don't know what's going to happen. And that was part of why I wanted to share this. I had no idea what my journey was going to look like. I had no idea what was going to happen in this journey and in the months to come. So I had to make some decisions about my business. And thank goodness I did make that decision to work with Lenka, because she absolutely made sure that I took the right decisions and took the right action in my business. And I'm not really sure I would have been able to do it without her on my side. But there were lots of things that I had to change in my business. So just to let you know, and I guess that's why I wanted to share the story. So it kind of started in 2019 and the mammogram was in January, and my last operation wasn't until August. That was quite some time. Yet during that period, I had some of my best months in my business. And I truly believe it's because I had to take action. I had to change the way I worked. I had to change the way the business worked. I had to change my business model because I was busy, and I was way too busy, and I wasn't necessarily busy in the right way. And this happens to us all in business. We start our businesses because there's something that we love, not necessarily because we're great at marketing or we can close a sales call in 5 minutes or less. None of those things come to mind when we start our businesses. So we often get into, I call it the hamster wheel. Before we know it, we're just really busy and we're just churning out stuff and we're just giving our attention here, there, and everywhere. And we kind of lose sight of where we're going. We lose sight of why we started our businesses. We lose sight of what's really important to us. So for me in the business, and cancer absolutely made me sit back and go, okay, what do I really want to be doing? What can I really achieve with my business? And more importantly, what changes do I need to make now? And breast cancer made me go, what changes do I need to make now in the business to make this business work, to enable me to still work in my business? And more importantly, what changes do I need to make to ensure that no matter what comes next, I'm able to successfully continue to manage and run and operate my business, be in my business? So I thought what would be really useful is to explain some of the changes that I actually made, because I think this is really important. It's very easy for me to sit here and go, I made loads of changes and doubled my income and profit, which I did. But how did I do that? What are the things that I actually had to do in my business? And I've written some notes, and I don't always write notes, but it's really important. There's some things that I really don't want to forget to get across to you. And the first thing I wrote down was I created time and flexibility in my business. I've explained, in March, I had no idea where my journey was going to go. I had no idea what form my journey might take, whether I would need chemotherapy or radiotherapy, which thankfully I didn't. So it was really important that I looked at my business model. And one of the things that was glaringly obvious to me very, very quickly was that it was quite complex, that I'd overcomplicated everything in my business. Now, I don't think this is unusual either, because one of the things that certainly comes up for me, and I know from working with clients and from my business friends, is that we start our businesses and then we have this sense of we need to be busy. We've got to be working at it all the time, that we can't sit back and relax. We can't allow it to happen because we've got to be busy. Now, often there is a real need for us to be busy in the business because that says we're successful. And often it's not till later when we have these light bulb moments that we realize that this busy is not creating the income that we need. It's not creating an easy flow of income that we need. So for me, it was absolutely looking at the business and going, how can I simplify this? Because being the queen of overcomplication, I had overcomplicated within an inch of my life. I'd made it more difficult for me to manage and operate my business. Lots of reasons. From, starting it way back and trying to put bits and pieces together. And that happens in business as well. We're trying to find solutions. So it's like we can find add-ons and bolt-ons, and because we're busy trying to make it work instead of sitting back and giving ourselves the space to go, okay, something's not right here. So let's look at it, almost under the microscope and see what's happening. And absolutely, breast cancer made me do that. It made me look at my business under the microscope and go, okay, what's not working and why is it not working? And I had to be really honest with myself. And I think we're really good at looking at things and going, well, that's okay. It's all right. It's doing its job. When quite often we're letting ourselves off the hook, or we don't want to admit, because it's difficult to admit that we've got something wrong. Now, when I talk about getting something wrong or talking about, for me, there are no failures in business. And actually, you're not getting something wrong. You're just on this fabulous learning journey to make things easier for yourself, make it easier for your clients. And that's, I say easier for my clients because it's one of the things that I really could see very quickly is that I needed to simplify my offering, not only for me to make it easier for me to connect and engage with clients and bring them into my programs and my one-to-one coaching, but I also needed to make it easier for my clients to understand how I would work with them, the benefits of working with me. So that was a real big light bulb moment for me, that actually I just made it too complicated. And partly because, when you're really busy doing stuff, whatever it is, and all the admin and everything else, you feel like you're successful. Or you can feel like you're successful, but you're more often than not creating the returns that you deserve. So for me, one of the key things was about simplifying my offer and doing that really, really quickly and making the decision and moving on. So that was one thing. The other thing was around really deciding where my attention and focus needed to be. And again, that was much, much easier once I'd simplified my business model, once I changed the way I was working, once I made it easier for me and for my clients. Because when we're in that mode of busy and working from a place of lack and fear, we quite often don't focus on the right activity. We often find ourselves procrastinating, scrolling through social media, finding ourselves doing the same things and churning out the same things because that's what we've always done, because that's where we're safe and we're in our comfort zone. If you're a member of my Make It Happen group, I talk about the comfort zone all the time. It's a safe place. It's where we feel that we know what we're doing here, but the magic always happens outside of your comfort zone. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, it's nearly always when you step out of that comfort zone that you gain the clarity that you need, or when you step outside of that comfort zone, everything starts falling into place. So it was really important to me that I looked at where my attention and focus needed to be. And it gave me permission to stop doing things, stop doing stuff that didn't matter. A really good example, I'd got into this habit of I must do a Facebook note on my page every week. But for what means? It really, having breast cancer really made me question what I was doing, why I was doing it. Was I doing it for the right reasons? And this is really important. So for me, creating time and flexibility came from changing the way I worked, simplifying, deciding where my focus and energy needed to be. The other thing that was massive for me, and I think will resonate with many, many women, is that we have this need to do everything, to be everything. And part of that comes from when we start our businesses. Our businesses are our babies. We're deeply connected with them. And it's really hard to relinquish help or relinquish elements or areas of the business. It's really hard to ask for help. And I am the worst person in the world for asking for help. I'm the worst person in the world for accepting help. And that was also a massive realization for me, that actually there were times when I've asked for help, and then when it was offered, I'd go, no, it's fine. How many times have you done that? When you might be explaining something that's going wrong or not quite right, or is a challenge in and out of your business, and then someone's going, oh, I can help with that. Or do you want me to do that? Or do you want me to pick up the kids? Do you want me to, all those little things when offered, and you go, oh, no, it's okay. I'll do it. So breast cancer absolutely made me look at my business and where I needed to get more help. And one of the things I did was increase the number of hours that the awesome Leanne provides me in my business. And that was a big milestone for me in going, look, I can't do this on my own. I need to relinquish more. I need to let go more. And that was happening in and out of my business. And when I say help, often people get this fear and all those emotions come up around, oh, I can't afford it. I can't outsource, Lindsay. I don't know how to do that. It's not always about a financial investment. However, what I will say to you is, whenever I have invested in a business coach or invested in a program that I have been fully committed to, my business has always shifted. My business has always shifted far more quickly and in ways that were often very surprising and exciting. So while I would say to you, outsourcing is really important to your business growth, and I would always encourage you to outsource and get help and invest in you and invest in your business way before you even need to, and often way before you can afford it, there are other ways to stop yourself being busy in your business. One is to stop doing stuff that is not creating a return. Social media is a really great example. If you're spending hours and hours on Facebook and you're getting absolutely no return, check in, get some help. Do you need to do it differently? But actually, if you're getting a really good return on the time that you spend doing lives on your YouTube channel or something else, do more of that and less of what is not working. I say it quite often, I hate the phrase time management. And there's a reason for that. You cannot manage time. It'll keep on ticking. You can't stop it. You can only manage you. And the journey that I went on last year really brought that home to me. Actually, where was I wasting time? And remember that prior to that, probably I'd done about 18 months, maybe 2 years work on looking at, self-development, on personal growth, meditating, journaling, all those kind of things. So I was in a pretty good place, I would say, in relation to knowing where I was putting my time. But actually having breast cancer made me make better decisions and really be honest with myself about where I was still wasting time in the business and where I needed to be more open to receiving help and support in the business, but also outside of it. I couldn't have gone through this journey without my family, without my mum, who took me to all my appointments to my hospital appointments for my operations. I couldn't have done it without my husband. I couldn't have done it without, my children. And I certainly couldn't have done it without the amazing support that I had from my friends, both what I call my business friends and my friends who I've made outside of the business. And I couldn't have done it without any of them. Couldn't have done it without the fabulous messages of support. And that was part of the journey, I believe, in enabling me to be more open to support in the business, because suddenly I was really vulnerable to friends who I'd given this persona of everything's fine, everything's great, and I can do it. Don't worry about me. And actually, I had to be more open to receiving that support, and support not always in physical activity, but just in people reaching out and connecting with me. So creating time and flexibility in my business was a real big thing. So simplifying my offers, deciding where to focus my attention and time, asking and accepting help. Okay, you can't ask for it and then say no. If it's, somebody's offering you help in some shape or form, please say yes. Don't be the martyr and go, no, it's fine. It's not fine. And actually, when you ask for help, it's a sign of true strength in and out of your business. It is you saying, okay, where do I need help and support in my business to move it forward? Sorry, I'm never sure if taking that out actually reduces their coughing that you can hear. Okay, creating time and flexibility, really, really important. How can you do it? So ask yourself, it's a great question. How can I create time and flexibility in my business? Ask yourself, it's a great, great question. And everything I'm saying, okay, take what you love, leave what you don't love, but please, please be honest with yourself. If you take anything and you ask yourself that question, okay, where can I make it easier? Where can I make it simpler in my business to operate, manage, and be in my business? But be honest with yourself. And that's one of the things that I absolutely learned to do last year. I had to be more honest with myself around where I was spending my time. The next thing I put down on my list was committing to the important, what matters most. And this is, of course, a nice follow-on from deciding where your focus needs to be and asking for help and accepting help. But the big thing, the key thing, and I talk about it all the time, but I went back to all of my vision documents. A massive one, really can't recommend enough getting a 10-year plan. And yes, I was always super scared of a 10-year plan. I couldn't decide what I needed to do tomorrow, let alone in 10 years. But until I took the time out to look forward with no ifs and buts, worrying about the how, until I was able to dream into the future, I wasn't able to make changes in the business. So I started doing 10 years plans about 3 years ago, and it was a real key. I always talk about keys to success and keys to change in my business. And deciding that I needed a 10-year plan was absolutely so important. I did that. So having that 10-year plan meant that no matter what happened in my journey in 2020 with breast cancer, no matter what happened, I was able to keep that vision in mind. And that's what enabled me to make changes in my business. That's what kept me focused and on track, knowing where I wanted to be and knowing the direction that I was going on. So I really am a big advocate of 10-year planning. And there are lots of tools and strategies and ways that you can do that. And I'd love to help you do that if you're really, really stuck. But my 10-year plan was absolutely essential to me last year during my breast cancer journey. Now, what was really interesting, and I hadn't thought about sharing this, but it's sort of just come to mind now, is that around about June time, so by then last year, I'd already had 2 operations and I was waiting for my mastectomy and reconstruction to happen. And remembering at that point, I had no idea when it was happening. The hospital couldn't tell me when that would be happening. So I was just focusing on my business. But about June time, I just felt this moment of complete, it's not happening. I don't know what's going on. I can't see the movement. I can't see the change. Now, in previous, I almost said in a previous life, but in previous years, I have no doubt that would have sent me really into a tailspin of going, this isn't working. I don't know what to do. I'm really falling back into lots and lots of old habits. But what I decided to do instead was to look back over the past 6 months and just note down everything that had happened, from the really, really small things in the business, such as, how many new followers I had on my page, new subscribers to my mailing list, how many awesome new people had come into my Facebook group, where my income levels were, where my profit levels were, which is even more important in business. And I started to look at, what I'd achieved from a mindset point of view. I had to stop and go, Lindsay, you've had 2 operations. You're waiting for another, which means you don't actually, know what's happening to the cells that are still there. So I had to take tamoxifen for that time as well, which brought some whole other side effects. I'm a pretty cold person, and tamoxifen, I had the tamoxifen chills. Who knew they existed? I didn't. But what I did is I caught myself in that moment and said, okay, hang on a minute. Don't allow overwhelm, don't allow fear, don't allow this place of lack to throw you off track. So I reconnected with my 10-year plan. Now I also have a 10-year, 8-year, 3-year and 1 year. So I just checked in with everything. And I stopped and took a moment to look at everything I had achieved in the business and out of the business. And I finished that exercise on cloud 9. I was consistently bringing in the same income month on month on month. I was on track for doubling my income of my previous financial year. More importantly, my income, my profit, sorry, had also doubled. It was all on track. So the reason for sharing that is that sometimes we're so busy doing, head down, getting on with it in our businesses that we don't stop to smell the coffee. We don't stop to bring our shoulders back. I do that a lot when I talk about these kind of exercises, because I want you to stop and I want you to look back and I want you to go, what have I achieved? Now, that was particularly important because of my breast cancer journey, but equally important, we were in a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic. We were in a pandemic. Our lives were different. We were locked, in June, we were still locked down with no real idea of how that was going to come, when that was going to change. And I think we were all in that state of flux of uncertainty and unknown. Yet I was bringing in consistent income. I was bringing people into my Facebook consistently. My list was growing one beautiful subscriber at a time. So it was really important that I stopped. Now, what was most interesting out of that exercise is that vision that I had for the business, suddenly I felt more deeply connected to it. And in fact, it got bigger. It really, I went from going, well, these are my income goals and that all feels great in about 10 years time, but what if I could do more? What if more is possible? And it came out of looking back, and I was able to see what could be achieved in a pandemic during breast cancer. I was thinking, my God, anything is possible. And I say this all the time. If you can think it, it is possible. If you think it, if you can feel those bubbling emotions of what is possible, it is possible for you. So what happened for me was my vision, my 10-year vision got bigger and more exciting. And I became more deeply connected to it. My desire to help more women, I do work with men, to help more women absolutely intensified. That feeling of knowing if I can do this for me in my business, if I can change the way I work in my business, create more flexibility, more time, do less and still create this, then I know that I can work with women and make it happen for them in their businesses. And that feeling of excitement, that knowing absolutely was so strong in that moment back in June.